Thank you. Well, as the title says, today I'm going to tell you what are the new features in the next major version of Spyder, which is Spyder 3.0. So let's get started. So to start, let me give you a very brief introduction to what Spyder is, for those of you who don't know it. So Spyder is an acronym that means the Scientific Python Development Environment. And but what does that really mean? This means that Spyder lets you write and run your code in the same application. And for that, Spyder offers the users 4 main components: an editor to write your code, a console to run it, a variable explorer to check the results obtained during the execution of your code, and a help pane to look up for documentation associated with that code. It's important to know that Spyder comes with all Anaconda installations, which means that it works really well on all major platforms, on Windows, Mac, and Linux. And we tested in all those platforms. So this is Spyder, and to the left we have the editor, and on the top right we have the help plugin or the help pane. And in the bottom right, we have a Jupyter Qt console embedded in Spyder. So in the editor, we also see that, well, you can see that it's divided in several blocks. These blocks are called cells, and these cells are created by writing a comment followed by 2 percentage signs. So it's very similar to MATLAB. And you can evaluate these cells by running Shift-Enter. So for example, here, I'm evaluating these first 3 cells. So as you can see, as a result of these evaluations, I have created a dictionary here and a data frame here. So if we move to the Variable Explorer, you can see that those variables are listed there. And if you do a double click on their names, you can inspect their contents. So here are the contents of this dictionary, and here is the contents of this 10 million row data frame. So as you can see, Spyder is very responsive. We have optimized this viewer a lot to make it work with big data frames. And you can also have the advantage to sort values inside the data frame. So it's a really nice viewer, and if you want to come back to the original view, or you can inspect it the other way around, you can do it by pressing on the index column. So, and finally, let me tell you that if you put your cursor in front of an object, oops. Well, for example, if you write a Numpy scene and you press Ctrl-I in front of an object, either on the editor or in the console, you get its documentation in the help pane rendered as an HTML page. So this is the docstring of the scene function in the Numpy module, and it's rendered as HTML, and the maths are shown. The LaTeX math present in the docstring is rendered also using Matjax. At the end, you have the examples, and you can copy those examples and paste them either in the editor or in the console. Okay. But even if I have become the main public face of Spyder during the last couple of years, this is not my only project. There are also other people who developed Spyder with me, and I'd like to mention them in this talk. So Spyder was created by Pierre Raibaud, and I am its current maintainer, which means that a bit unwillingly I have become Mr. Bug Fixer for Spyder and also Mr. Releaser. But there is also, we also have to Gonzalo Peña Castellanos, who unfortunately couldn't be here to give this talk. But he's one of the main forces behind Spyder 3.0. And there is also Steve Sylvester and Sylvain Corlain of Jupyter fame. and Joseph Martinot Lagarde, who has created several external plugins for Spyder, and a last contributor from last month, who is called Jitsi Nissen, who is a professor or is a lecturer in applied mathematics department of the University of Leeds. And to finish this introduction, let me tell you some facts about Spyder 3.0. So we have been developing this new version for 2 years. It has about 2,500 commits and 40 more new committers than our last release. It has also 3 new translations. So besides having a Spyder in Spanish and French, we also have it now in Portuguese, Russian, and Japanese. And with this release, with this new version, we have moved to use Qt5. So Qt is the graphical toolkit used by Spyder, or upon which Spyder is built. And this move to Qt5 allows us to support now a macOS 10.10 or higher, and also Windows 10. And it also allows people to work with the high definition screens with Spyder. And finally, we have tested Spyder more thoroughly using Debugger and Travis, because we have moved for this version to GitHub. Okay, so that's the main introduction about Spyder. Now let me tell you about the new and exciting features that we are going to introduce in Spyder 3.0. So first we have third-party external plugins. So we have simplified the way users can create and install external plugins that extend Spyder functionality. And for that, we have followed the Flask plugin model, or the Flask web framework. So this means that if Spyder finds a package in your site package directory that starts with a name Spyder_foo, then it assumes that foo is an Spyder plugin and tries to load it accordingly. This means, because of that, now users can use pip or conda to install these plugins. And we have 2 types of plugins. One is an user interface plugin, which allows users to add new panes to the Spyder main interface. And for example, to put a new pane next to the help pane or to the console. And we also have input-output plugins that allows you to import different kinds of data into the running console. And right now, Spyder developers themselves have created external plugins for several things. For example, a line profiler plugin to let you see a detailed summary of the time spent during execution on each line of your file. A keybindings plugin to be able to use Bing keyboard shortcuts in the editor, and a Conda graphical installer. So that allows you to install Conda packages inside the Spyder and also to manage channels and environments inside the Spyder. So let me show you some of those plugins. So this is, for example, the Condom Manager. So this is not part of Spyder 3.0, but it's developed as in a different repository and as a different package, and it even works as a standalone application. But this plugin or this pane lets you install, uninstall, update, or downgrade your Conda packages. And the idea is to associate it with projects, but that's what I'm going to talk about next. So for example, that's the list of installed packages in my root environment. And these are the ones that are not installed. You can select one, for example, accelerate, and select also here the different versions that you want to install of this package. And here you can also add different channels. For example, I have added here Conda Forge to this widget, and after updating the index, then all packages of that channel will be available and shown here inside too. That's the widget, and let me show you the Beam one. So this has been requested for a lot of time to be able to use Beam keybindings in the editor. So this is also an external plugin. And after installing it, you can see here in the editor this new widget called Beam. And you can enter debug mode, command mode. Well, that's edit mode, and by pressing enter, you enter command mode, and you can use, for example, I am using here J and K to move between lines, or H and L to move between characters. So it's very simple right now, but it could be improved, it can be extended, and cover most of the commands that Beam users expect from an editor that supports Beam. Okay, the next main thing that we have added to Spyder 3.0 is projects. So the idea behind projects is to allow our users to easily switch between different programming efforts. So right now, if you start Spyder, you want to work on different tasks, you have to do it all in the same view. So you are not allowed to switch between contexts. So suppose you have a user that is analyzing two different data sets, and he wants to use different scripts and even different packages, different packages associated with those scripts. So the idea with projects is to allow him to do those things separately. So he could be able to save the list of open files for each project. And with this idea of projects, he also will be able to associate a virtual or Conda environment to that project and to install particular packages for that project. But it's very important to notice that we are not forcing this idea of projects on our users. So users that don't want to use projects will be able to work as in previous versions of Spyder. So let me show you how this works. So for example, here, there is this entry in the file menu called New Project. When you press it, you get this dialog. You can create a new project. For example, SciPy. And it associates a directory with that project, and it creates it. So you can see here that now that in the title bar of the main application, it's mentioned that we have an active project working, and you can create a file in this project. For example, this one, I can call it foo, for example, and didn't save it as a Python file. And you can import, for example, whatever you want on it. And then you can close this project. And you come back to the files that I had before. So this is not finished yet. You are not able still to associate a Conda environment to it, but in the future we want to do that and to update this widget, this Condom Manager, with the packages of your environment associated with your project, and also start your consoles, your Qt consoles, with the interpreter used in that project. We're working on it. That will be available on Spyder 3. But the main idea is that you will be able to switch between different programming efforts using this project's idea. Next, we have in the editor, we have improved the editor in Spyder to support much more programming languages. So in past versions, Spyder was focused mainly on Python, on the Python language, and supporting Python very well. But we have tried to improve that by using a library called Pygments, which is a pure Python syntax highlighting library. And now we can add highlighting to all files, all programming languages supported by this library. And we also have added basic code completion for those languages in the editor. So let me show you how this works. For example, here I have a bash file, and as you can see, it's correctly highlighted. Well, at least the highlighting that is given by Pygments, and I can get completions for some of the keywords used in bash, for example, case or ESAC or things like that. So for that completion, we are also using Pygments. We are using the keywords provided by Pygments in each language. So it's not extensive, but at least it's a nice improvement over what we have in the past. We also have added in Spyder 3.0 a new file switcher to the editor. So this is a new widget that is present in other editors, like for example in Sublime and in Atom, and allows you to easily move between files, between the list of open files by doing a fuzzy search on them. And it's activated as in Sublime by pressing Ctrl P, and when you write as the first character of your search an @ symbol, then it allows you to browse and to select the list of functions, classes, and methods present in that file. So let me show you how this works. For example, here I have a file that it's in the Spyder source code base, and if I press Ctrl P, I get this widget. I can do a fuzzy search on them. So for example, that, or can write MP and select stamp. And after pressing enter, I can move to that file. And now, as I was telling you, if I press an @ symbol at the beginning, you can see that Spyder lists now the list of open symbols, and you can move to them. And you can also write a search text after that, and you can select a particular method that you want to go to. So it's very useful. Well, it's not a new idea. We know it has been present in Sublime Text for quite some time, but it's very useful, and you can use it right now in Spyder 3. And it was a work contributed by a user that is not even a core developer of Spyder. So it's a very, very nice improvement. We also have in this new version a new Numpy array builder. So this means that in Spyder 3.0 you will be able to create matrices and vectors in a graphical way in Spyder. So if you do a lot of work with matrices and vectors, I think you will be really, really happy. You can do that by pressing Ctrl M, for example here, in the IPython console. You press Ctrl N, and you get this kind of spreadsheet widget. You can enter different values. For example, I'm entering this matrix. And in the console, it's introduced the right code to create that matrix. Well, sorry, I don't have imported Numpy before, but that's the main idea. You also have improved the way we introduce keyboard shortcuts in Spyder. So it's now much more easier to do that here in our preferences. So again, you can do here a fuzzy search to select the shortcut that you want to inspect, and you can change them quite easily. For example, in this case, if you want to change the shortcut associated with a file switcher, you press Ctrl Enter, and a new keyboard shortcut for that, and press OK. So before that, we have functionality to change keyboard shortcuts, but it was not as smooth and as easy to use as this one. And we also plan to add to this dialog a way to use different sets of shortcuts, for example, Emacs shortcuts. And well, that's all. Thank you very much for your attendance. You can install this new Spyder version by using conda install -c spyder Spyder, which is our Anaconda channel, or also by using pip --pre Spyder, because this is a pre-release version. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have time for a few questions.
Thanks. I was just wondering if the projects that are being introduced in the Spyder will have any way to correlate with, say, a Git repository. So like a Git repository would be a project and vice versa.
No, right now we don't have support for Git, but it's being developed as an external plugin by Gonzalo. But no, it's not possible, and I think we won't have time to add that before Spyder 3.0.
Hi, thanks for your time. I just wanted to say this is a fantastic product, and we use it a lot internally where I work. One question I had is about the future of the debugger, and I was just going to ask you, how you see the present state and the future state. That's one of possibly the pain points. We use both Anaconda with the Spyder IDE and also MATLAB internally where I work.
Yes.
Because we do a lot of scientific data analysis, and one thing that sort of prevents users from switching over is the debugger within the Python ecosystem and the Spyder IDE. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, well, the debugger is one of our weakest points because, well, for those of you who haven't used it, it creates. It gives you a PDB instance inside Qt console, for example, but then you don't have history browsing or plotting, and you can evaluate Python code, arbitrary Python code inside it. So yeah, it's really, really painful. What we're thinking to do, but that will be for Spyder 4.0, is to create a Pdb kernel. So I was talking with Steve Sylvester yesterday about that. So the idea is that what people really want in a debugger is three things: history browsing, plotting, and be able to evaluate arbitrary Python code, but using the variables defined in your breakpoint. And so by creating a kernel, a Pdb kernel, we will have all those features, hopefully, and then the situation will be improved significantly. So we think that it's so much hard effort, but unfortunately Steve is really busy right now with Jupyter Lab. But I hope to ping him to do this work and present it in the next SciPy.
I just wanted to add from the Jupyter perspective that we have plans to add debugging features to the protocol for kernels, and I guess that Spyder is going to benefit from that too.
So speaking of version 4.0, where do you see Spyder in relation to what's going on with Jupyter and Jupyter Lab?
Well, I think right now Jupyter Lab has become a direct competition to Spyder. They are both doing more or less essentially the same. Before that, well, the notebook was really different from Spyder. It is like a kind of Mathematica style approach, while Spyder is a MATLAB approach. So they were complementary, and now we're kind of competing. But I think, Spyder is much more mature. We have worked really, really hard, for example, in improving our data frame viewer, because now people can throw at it whatever, that huge data frames, and it won't block. I try to use, for example, the plugins that have been developed for the notebook, and they don't work past 30,000 rows of data frames, and that's a very small data frame for most work. And we also have this new infrastructure to create plugins, so we hope that people can extend Spyder in very useful and neat ways in the future. So I think I will say that Spyder is like 2 years ahead of Jupyter Lab right now, but since there is so much power behind Jupyter Lab, I'm sure they are going to catch us. But still, the desktop is much more powerful than what you can do in the browser. So I see that as an alternative for the lab.
You mentioned being able to attach environments to projects. Is that implemented already, or is that still in production?
No, well, we were trying to do it last night. Gonzalo was trying to do it, but the idea is that, yeah, we will have that already available in Spyder 3. So when this new project dialog creates, you will be available to attach it.
Will that also transfer to another user? Like if someone else brings up that same project, will it load the environment you set up?
I think we can use the functionality present in Condom to export a project as an environment YAML file, and then you will be able to share your projects with your co-users, and the projects will use the same packages as you are using currently. Yes.
Okay, this will be the last question.
I was looking at the GitHub, and it looks like there's a current request for Vim and Emacs bindings.
Yeah.
How close is that?
Yeah, that Vim is more or less ready, and that's what I show here. For example, here, but that's developed as an external plugin. So you have this Vim widget present here. You can enter to command mode by pressing ESC and move with JK, HL, etc. It has the most basic functionality for Vim, but we are improving it. And for Emacs, we are developing a new set of widgets, and that will be present probably in Spyder 3.1. And there is a pull request available about it. And then you will be able to select here in a combo box or something, Emacs, and it will change all these shortcuts to be the Emacs ones.
All right, let's
Okay.
thank the speaker again.
Thank you very much.